Anybody notice that there's a Europe flag outside now? You did? Okay. Diese Zeit, ich weiß gar nicht wie lang eigentlich, ist in München Europa-Mai. May in Europe, European May is the motto, and there's lots of stuff in town, lots of activities and exhibitions and all kinds of things that you can visit. It's the month of Europe in May. Das hat natürlich vermutlich historische Gründe. Ich habe ehrlich gesagt gar keine Ahnung, aber andernorts wird der 9. Mai ja gerade jetzt ganz groß gefeiert. Hier ist der Gedanke nicht so sehr an den Krieg, sondern an Europa und was zusammengeht. What can we do together, and not only in the field of creative aging? So I think it's fortunate that this project came to happen that way, that really talented, interested, engaged people from different cultures and countries and background professions got together to enforce this project, collect ideas, and support the now more and more aging society. Die Europafahne steht ja auch im Rahmen der Geragogik eigentlich für was ganz Wichtiges. Menschen werden auch in Europa heute mobiler. Wir wandern von einem Land zum anderen, auch die Alten, also ich. Und es ist schön zu wissen, dass es da grenzübergreifend Projekte, Vorstellungen gibt und einen Austausch. Und jetzt fehlen eigentlich nur noch die Dolmetscher. Die sind noch nicht grenzüberschreitend unterwegs, hoffentlich. Sind noch nicht da. Okay. Well, maybe I'll give it a go. Wir hören als nächstes Sabine Ruchlinski. Sabine Ruchlinski leitet hier den KulturRaum. Das ist noch so ein Begriff, der jetzt vielfach verwendet wurde und verschiedene Bedeutungen hat. KulturRaum in München, und das wird sie gleich detaillierter erzählen, ist eine Möglichkeit für Menschen, die keinen direkten Zugang haben, aus verschiedenen Gründen, zu kulturellen Veranstaltungen teilnehmen zu können. Sie wird es zusammen machen mit Hermann Schmidt, der einer der Kulturgäste ist. Und das wird sicher sehr lebendig und vielfältig. I'm sorry, your translators are traveling. Sind Sie da? They're here. Have you been translating? They have. Okay. Okay, then time to welcome Sabine Ruchlinski and Hermann Schmidt. Alles gut? Frau Ruchlinski, wie lange machen Sie das schon?
Ms. Ruchlinski, for how long have you been doing that? For 10 years now. It's 10 years ago that we established it. And you're gonna tell us what the specialties are of your association. Yeah, KulturRaum München is what I'm standing here for, and I have to say that Mr. Schmidt is not one of our cultural guests, but it's rather one of our facilitators that will speak for our cultural guests, because nothing can provide a better picture of our offer than the voices of our guests that we are collecting and gathering, and Mr. Schmidt is going to read them to you in line with my presentation. So KulturRaum, room, it is something that is actually called differently in any other city, but they don't have a common link. Well, they do, because we all pursue the same ideas, and unfortunately the story is a very long one and not necessarily a positive one. The first initiative was the so-called Culture Lounge in Marburg, and afterwards there was the Culture Lounge Berlin. This is something that I came across for the first time, and the head of the Kulturloge Marburg didn't want everyone to call their projects Kulturloge. So there was like a framework that you need to abide by, and if you didn't do that, you were not allowed to call yourself Kulturloge. So it was also a trademark litigation, which is why we had to use different names, but we all work together. We really have like one federal, one national association as well, and we have members in 30 cities all across Germany. So I hope that the rest of your tasks is not as difficult.
Okay, also, genau. Du hast das Wort.
Okay.
Ja.
You can speak up if you wish.
Zu Beginn ein Zitat.
First of all, a quotation.
Es war grandios, diese
It was terrific to experience this breathtaking, intense and heartfelt music so close up and to be able to empathize directly with the musicians. As I was sitting directly across from the first violin and about 10 feet away from the conductor and the entire orchestra, which was playing, facing in my direction. It was as if the orchestra had played just for me and the singer had sung just for me. Thank you. So you can already see what a cultural event actually means to people, and our other quotations are actually showing the same thing. I'm very happy that we got the opportunity to present to you everything that we do as an association, and we are actually also a very good example for a intersectoral cooperation, a cohesion, because our basic structures are funded by the social department or Department for Social Affairs of the City of Munich, and we also cooperate with the Department for Cultural Affairs, and except for the financials and for the funding, we also have a close cooperation when it comes to content. And it is a great collaboration together with the public hand, but also with many other authorities of the city that are in charge of our target group. And I'm very happy that this works. The only link that is missing is the health department, as we have discussed so far. The target is to bring people with little money to cultural events with as little barriers as possible, and approximately 2,500 monthly cultural visits show that we're rather successful in breaking down those barriers. And we can also reach out to people for whom culture is something completely new.
Eine Begleiterin berichtet zum Beispiel.
One attendant, for instance, reported the following. It was the first theatre visit in her life. The lady was born in 1945, and an unforgettable experience. The house, the atmosphere, all the people, the feeling of belonging. Now I would like to show you which hurdles we encounter, which we need to tackle, and how we do that. The first and most obvious hurdle is money. According to the Poverty Report of 2017, 269,000 people in Munich live below the poverty line, which for Munich would be 1,350 euros of monthly net income for a single person. This is something that actually means that they don't or cannot afford a concert ticket for less than 30 euros. And this also includes 14,500 pensioners living on basic benefits, many of whom do not even apply for them and try to survive on a small pension. And this is how culture becomes unaffordable. And they can all register with us. At the moment, we have approximately 2,260 guests who are older than 60 years of age. In addition, we are cooperating with many social institutions, and we do have some representatives of those institutions here in the audience. And they can register with our ticket center, and with those tickets, we can actually give pensioners the possibility to enjoy any such cultural event, and it is approximately 2,000 to 3,000 people per year. The second big obstacle aside of money is that people do not have any information or only poor access to information. And how do we try to tackle that? Well, in Munich there is something that is really great and that is also available in many other cities, namely the so-called Munich Pass. And this Munich Pass is something that you qualify for if you don't have sufficient financial means and only low income. And you can make use of a free free of charge entry to all city museums. So everyone who holds a Munich pass can actually register with us as a cultural guest. The most important thing about our offer, and this is something that was mentioned several times these days, were personal conversation. So we call our cultural guests and try to clarify all of the questions. How do I get there? How do I get my ticket? Is there anything special that I need to wear? Is there anything else to consider? And this is something that people are doing in our KulturRaum office, and we have a modern telephone center that also enables people working from home. And this also includes people who are affected by themselves or who might be disabled, which prevents them from taking part in any such cultural event, but they can work from home. A quotation. I had somebody on the phone who enthusiastically and full of knowledge and experience told about the Munich Chamber Orchestra and tried to really convey an idea of the concert brought to me before my inner eye. I was immediately bathed in anticipation, but was then literally knocked off my chair by reality, the cushioned chair, the one in the Prinzregenten Theater. And I am glad to confess, I have trampled, whistled and hooted as usually only at a rock concert, where all do it. But I was not the only one. It was incredible to see what enrichment, which one cannot reward sufficiently with applause. I thank you from the bottom of my heart, also to the one of your staff who had already predicted all this to me on the phone. Rarely has an advance review hit the mark as it did here. Ever since 2018, we also have some people talking about our offer at Die Tafel, and we are also distributing some leisure tips from our free entry calendar, which is also part of our information spreading. This is something that is an additional offer that is available for all citizens of the City of Munich. It's a free admission calendar with up to 300 cultural events per month. We also provide our guests with regular newsletters, those of them who provided their email addresses. The others get letters with some leisure tips and also with other information, for instance, regarding an energy savings recommendation by the City of Munich, which is highly welcomed and appreciated. We also try to include our partners and show people with low income all possibilities and things that make their lives easier. And this is something that has already taken place before the pandemic. A third big obstacle are, of course, personal disabilities and limitations, which lead to it that people do not participate in social life. Quotation. Due to my health limitations, it is very difficult for me to participate in events. I've now been able to experience a theater or musical for the first time. I would like to thank you very much for the free ticket. It was a great experience, and the performance was a lot of fun. For people who, due to their limitations, need somebody to attend them, we have a platform, Kulturpaten for Munich. This is a program where we are also cooperating with some other programs of the same kind that existed before, because we do have a broad offer in this respect in Munich. So people who seek after disabled or limited persons, they can register with us as a so-called Kulturpate, and every month they get an offer via email. It doesn't work over the phone because you need to harmonize different appointments and dates, but you can actually visit cultural events together with this disabled person.
Im Auftrag des Kulturreferats
Then, on behalf of the Department of Culture of the City of Munich, we have developed a website. It was their idea, I have to say, but we really liked it as well. That included all of the information regarding venues for leisure time activities and cultural events. And this is a huge help for people that are affected, but also for us as mediators. Another nice effect is that we went to all of those cultural venues in order to collect information. And of course, these encounters that we had are making people more aware of the fact that it is necessary to be hurdle-free, to be accessible, and it is not enough to just provide wheelchair spaces or a ramp. And disabilities, that's a heterogeneous and very complex field, which is why I would like to differentiate. We have some guests with cognitive impairments. For them, we have the website in an easy language. And here again, we are applying KulturPaten. And in addition, our facilitators are giving advice regarding suitable events and also explain what it is all about. And we also look for people with cognitive disabilities that are young. One of the Paten said, Miss K really enjoyed going to the museum. Due to her disablement, she was not really able to grasp everything. However, she had a lot of fun in the puppet and doll section and in the Oktoberfest exhibit. Then there are many guests with psychological limitations. Here again, the descriptions of the event are very important. They need to be accurate. For instance, whether there are any strotoscopy effects, whether it is very loud, whether there is violence included and involved, or what are the information and topics that are used therein. This is something that we talk about with our cultural partners, and sometimes we also refuse them if it's not possible to convey the message to our target group. Then there are also some vouchers for free choice of dates that are very popular with people who struggle with highly fluctuating daily schedules or are suddenly indisposed at very short notice. So they really prefer using any such voucher, and then they would visit an event once they feel well. So these vouchers are not yet widely spread, but we try to buy some from funds that we get as donation, and then we try to make them available to the persons that need them. Then there are the people with mobility limitations. For them, we are also organizing wheelchair spaces. This is something that you need to get straight with the organizer of any such event. And we also ask them whether it's possible to have a rollator with you. And in this context, we find out more and more often that all of the venues are very helpful. Quotation. They were very nice and kind to wheelchair users and took me to my seat and helped me move. Then they took the wheelchair outside because it is not allowed to stand in the aisle during the show, because they have to go through there with the horses. And after the show, they brought the wheelchair back to me. It was really, really nice. Then, of course, there are blind, deaf, and linguistically impaired persons. Here again, we check together with the cultural guests which events are suitable and advise accordingly. We also arrange, if possible, about special offers, such as tactile tours or tours for dementia patients. The fourth big hurdle, and you all know that, is the language. About 60% of our cultural guests do not have German as their mother tongue. In some cases, the language barriers are very high and also a challenge for the mediators. We try to counter this problem with the following measures. Our website and our flyer uses simple language. In addition, again, the personal conversations on the phone and on the site are one of the decisive factors for success. We also try to provide mediation in family language. For instance, we have one mediator that is of Russian mother tongue, and she is, of course, working a lot at the moment with fixed working hours. We have, for instance, 50 refuged Ukrainian cultural guests. We have a lot of interest among these people, and we are very happy that we are able to also pay our toll with respect to this crisis. And new on the team is another mediator speaking Arabic. And we also try to get more people on board that are fluent in other languages. But our main target is that we really address these people in the simplest possible language to make sure that they understand us. Of course, language is key to participating in any society. Here again, we are cooperating with social institutions who take over this mediation work and facilitation work. And again, we have those mentors, the so-called Kulturpaten, for the refugees who do not know where to go in the cities. However, very often it is underestimated also by our mediators and mentors that cultural offers in German language might be very valuable for people who do not understand everything. One of the mentors reported the following: I cannot forget an older man of Turkish descent who, in spite of poor language skills, did not want to be prevented from joining a Don Carlos staging that is really very complicated in terms of language. He just got back to us and gave us the feedback that he had an outstanding evening. And this is actually something that is a picture illustrating what the pandemic was all about. This was one of our Christmas parties, because around 600 of our cultural guests do not have an email address. So people who do not have a lot of experiences when it comes to digital offers and digital content are now facing the challenge that many or much of the content is only advertised for digitally. So it is absolutely necessary to learn about that, because access to counseling and training, just like leisures and sports and cultural offerings, is only available digitally. And especially in the pandemic, we had many digital offers that have some problems that were built up before. It tore my heart a little when an elderly lady called today. She would have trained and practiced with the computer for an extra half hour beforehand on Sunday, but then it didn't work. However, she now has the number of the digital help on the phone and will then try again next Sunday with freshly learned PC skills. Well, this was one of the solutions that we were able to find. We were interconnected with a media center in Munich, and there we have young media pedagogists who help us offer digital help over the phone when everything came to a stop and to a halt. We now also have digital help at the counter in 2 spots of the city where you can ask for the help of 2 young media pedagogists. What we also do when there are only digital tickets, we print them out and we send them via snail mail. And those people who are not addressable at all, for them we are sending letters, and on the long run we will always have an analogous part of all of our information spreading, because we do not want to exclude anybody. But going forward, we would really like to offer the possibility that they can learn more about the offer on all channels. The 7th big obstacle are the offers that need to meet the needs. And we've heard about that. Munich is beautiful at night, but many people do not want to leave their houses and homes at night, which is why we try to only look for events that take place on suitable days and times of the day. Museum, always highly interesting. Tours are during the day, so no driving around at night on public transportation. This is also quite important to me. Then there are people who cannot leave the house and do not want to leave the house. And before the pandemic, they always had to deregister before the pandemic. However, now they will stay with us because we had to think about what happens if there is no culture available. And we just tried to acquire some books from libraries, and we have mediated them and spread them over the phone. And this was already like our starting point to stay in touch and want to really exchange and communicate with all of our members. And on a regular basis, we provided them with books and CDs and audiobooks, also audiobooks for kids. And this is something that we sent via mail. So this is going to stay like that in the future, so nobody has to deregister as a cultural guest.
Zitat.
With regret, we wanted to go to the library at the beginning of December to borrow some books for the vacations. But unfortunately, we didn't realize that the libraries had to close. Your book shipment came at the right moment. And for this target group, people who are at home but who might already have access to digitization, for them we are offering a culture salon from home where you look at an online offer. And one of our team members is offering an exchange of views. At the moment we have like 5 to 6 people who make use of this offer, but we are quite optimistic that we will be able to allure more people, but I'd say more than 10 or 12 wouldn't make any sense because such a Zoom exchange would be best up to 10 people. And then we have people who do not want to leave their neighborhoods. This is where we really try to be on site, for instance, wherever the Tafel spreads or distributes their food, or when we have some cultural luncheon times with artists that really try to increase the attractiveness of culture, or they also invite people to sing along. And very often some artists are with us whenever we are there on the spot. And sometimes it's also elderly artists that say, okay, this is something that I really enjoyed doing in the past. So we really try to make them be creative by themselves. And now we already have a music on-site ensemble that was actually established based on those events wherever die Tafel spread their food. And we also have our own choir that our guests from Europe were able to see only yesterday. Another thing that we have started doing during the pandemic, due to the fact that we didn't really get many tickets because there were not many events, we tried to organize for some concerts at different venues, and we also tried to comply with a desire of many of our cultural guests, and we have developed a new format, our guest cafe in different parts of the city, where you can have a cup of tea or coffee and some cake, and always one cultural part. This is something that is taking place once a month in different parts of the city. So whoever wants to leave their own neighborhood can come to another neighborhood, and those who do not want to leave it, they can just stay where they are, and there will be an event for them as well.
Ein weiteres Zitat.
Another quotation. I am really seriously ill. 2 times I was given a modern play that I had to leave in the middle of it because of unbearable scenes of violence. I was very sorry for that. Well, I think you really have to keep that in mind and think about it, because this is another obstacle, and this is what is reflected by the contents of the cultural offers, because the cultural offers and the negotiated topics do not meet with everyone's interests. Sometimes they're difficult to understand or too burdensome, as we've just heard. Another quotation. The Winter's Tale was played in a modern way and not according to the original. And the Street of Flowers was also modern. Until today, I did not understand the content. Well, what shall we do in these cases? We try to make the producers of cultural events aware of this fact, and sometimes we are also refusing some of the events because we believe it is not possible to offer them to our guests. And sometimes our mediators do not want to offer them because they don't like it or because they don't understand the text. So if you don't understand it, you cannot actually make it interesting for anybody else. And on the other hand, the personal exchange and the personal conversation is a big help, because many of our mentors go to the theaters quite frequently. They are very well informed and experienced here in Munich, and they can explain content in a way that our guests can understand it as well. So the personal exchange is a key for success. And they help you with the right selection. The offer is wide. I've been to events through KulturRaum that I would never have consciously chosen, but which were very intellectually stimulating. I am grateful for that. And one very specific cooperation is what I would like to mention here, namely with the theatre festival Spielart, because we had a special edition of the Guest Café where the head of the festival presented their program or picked out some selected productions from this program, and our cultural guests were able to select for themselves which of those shows they wanted to visit, and this was very well accepted and welcome, and there was great cake and everything. So I believe that we will do that again whenever the next festival will be staged. Last but not least, one topic that we encounter in our everyday business and also in the cooperation with our cultural organizers, something that is very difficult to illustrate, is classism. Biases towards people living in poverty, and here it is about really being more aware. Quotation. Moreover, 18 tickets were deposited, which, according to the organizer, were also all used, whereby it is still to be noted that, in particular, the personnel of the organizer and their friendly, kind, and nature conveyed the feeling of being a paying guest, a completely normal visitor, and not a supplicant. Please tell this also to the concerning persons. Yeah, of course, this is what we do. We give feedback. And in this context, it is also important for us that little money does not mean that they don't have a proper education. Of course, there are overlappings. The group of our cultural guests is very heterogeneous. People who used to be interested in culture before they are old age pensionists, people with low income, families with low income, people who refuged, and people who are disabled. Many of them work, however, due to their dire straits, they still live under precarious conditions. Due to their difficult financial situation, they often do not even think about cultural visits. Many assume that museums, theatres or concert halls are not the right places for them. And we counteract this primarily through conversations, personal ones, that's repetitive of course. The personal invitation makes all the difference. Quotation. Your call and the possibility of being able to participate in a cultural event as a Hartz-IV recipient without having to feel like a freeloader or a failure moved me to tears. Besides, no one has to go there alone, and that's also quite important. Anyone and everyone may invite a person of their own choice. Quotation. Herewith, I would like to thank you very much for a wonderful concert evening. I had great seats in the second row of the Kammerspiele, and the production in the second version of the revolutionary drama was excellent. This is better than psychotherapy. Art is really, not always, but more and more often, balm for the soul. And about the not having to go alone, another suitable quotation. I'd like to thank you very much herewith for a wonderful concert evening with the Kammerphilharmonie in the Herkulessaal of the residence in Munich on October 16th. Through your work and dedication, you have made this possible. Without you, this concert evening would not have been possible for me. Also for the second ticket, thank you very much. My sister was my companion. The second ticket makes sense, because alone, such an evening is only half as much fun. And alone, I probably would not have gone at all. So thanks again for your dedication and for your solidarity. It is often assumed that people who are funded by the state have a lot of time and do not have any regular schedule. That's not true, because young people have several jobs to work in. single moms can only work part-time, and old age pensioners are also working some smaller jobs. Quotation. I hope very much that I may once again have the pleasure of being human again, of being allowed to be there and to be able to escape from everyday life for a short time without losing sight of the realities. Especially since I've been volunteering at Caritas in various activities ever since I got Hartz IV, to be able to give back some self-respect and the help I've been given, at least in part. And in order not to lose my courage and the strength completely. So please, let's make sure all together that we can break down any biases and cultural participation as possible for everyone.